Welcome back. This is Tom O'Connor of Advanced Discovery, and we're here at the University of Florida, Levin College of Law, EDiscovery Conference in the story booth. Tell me a story, Craig.
Once upon a time.
My old friend Craig Bear, our Ball, is here. I always call him Craig Bear by mistake.
Because there is another guy named Craig Bear.
That's right.
And I know where I fall in your affection.
But Craig, now that you are a resident of the city of New Orleans, we have to make you comfortable in the story booth by giving you some beads to wear.
Who dat?
Who dat, baby?
Who dat?
That's right. So, Craig, first of all, obvious question. It's the end of the day. We've had a great day at the conference today. What's your assessment of the proceedings so far?
I thought the proceedings have been splendid. Once again, the team here at U Florida, led by Bill Hamilton, has done an excellent job of bringing some of the finest talents and minds and speakers and thought leaders on electronic discovery to the swamps of Central Florida, where everything is orange and blue for no particular reason I can discern.
I would like to add to that, and we saw this yesterday with the Career Fest when we were here for Career Day, the engagement of the students and their interest in where the profession is going is not just heartening, but bodes well for e-discovery. We've had a lot of discussions with students, as you know, trying to talk cross purposes, technology and law after getting their JD, some sort of a joint study program, which I found to be a great trend and one that I'm glad they're thinking of. So a couple of things I have been asking people today. One is, give me your 40,000 foot view of where we are in our profession. What's the state of the eDiscovery Union?
I think we're at a transitional time. And it's borne out by a lot of metrics that we can look at, Tom. What I mean is, I think we are in many ways waiting for the old guard to leave the stage and for these young bucks that you talked about, these people who have a renewed interest and unafflicted by the ennui that affects the rest of us with respect to electronic evidence and e-discovery. I feel like we're not seeing the uptake that we'd long ago hoped for with our peers, the experienced trial lawyers and the successful leaders in the law firms, and I'm pretty much at a point where I don't expect they're ever going to take it on. But the good news is that as we move off of this stage, there is obviously a generation of young people committed to understanding that electronic evidence is the evidence and that it must be preserved, collected, analyzed, and brought forward. So I'm heartened by the future and sad that we can't change the past.
Okay. How about then shifting from 40,000 feet to the jetway? What's a trend? Something that's striking you as being of increased focus right now, something specific in e-discovery. We had a number of topics today, of course, proportionality and again the focus on cooperation, Internet of Things, I know a favorite topic of yours, social media. Anything really leaping out at you there?
I think we're at an inflection point with regard to mobile. We've been indulging ourselves in something I consider to be the great delusion, the grand lie, and that is this position without justification, which seems pretty common in today. It's apparently fake news, if you will, that mobile doesn't contain any unique information. Well, that is a huge grand delusion, Tom. If someone were to actually compare the content of a processed mobile device with the other sources routinely collected in eDiscovery, they would never find substantial support for their assertion that whatever we would get off the phone we're getting from somewhere else. It's a huge deception, and I think we're very close to the point where the routine preservation of mobile will not only be taking place, because it has to take place, but I think importantly we're going to see the ability to do it very quickly and cheaply, and importantly, crucially, without having to take the phones away from the users. That's a non-starter in a way that nothing else in eDiscovery we have ever seen. I've been able to take laptops and desktops and other things from users. They're usually willing to let them go overnight. You cannot take a phone from an individual.
People will not give up their phone.
They will not. They will say, this is the only way that my children's school can get me in an emergency. This is the only way I can call my family, because there's no other way I have their numbers except in the context on my phone. And we can go forward. We are so tied to our devices today that it's perfectly understandable that we will not only not surrender them for e-discovery, we will barely surrender them to take a shower.
Interesting. Okay, great.
But I believe, as I say, I think the sea change comes down this way. These phones are being so locked down. Apple, with its latest release of an operating system just 48 hours ago, is a good example, that the idea of treating them like forensic crime scenes that have to be handled by experts and processed on special equipment is fast going away. There's not going to be a lot of special out-of-reach stuff you can get on phones very shortly. And that means that a standard unencrypted backup using the software systems that are provided by the phone manufacturers, whether it be iTunes or whatever it is you would use on an Android, or iCloud, those are going to prove a sufficient, cost-effective, expedient means by which we can preserve the contents, and we will see the development of simple, low-cost tools, software-based tools, for parsing their content and providing them in intelligible, easy-to-assimilate reports that we can bring into our standard review processes.
Okay, interesting. Now, along those lines, though, I was recently told by one of our forensics guys at Advanced Discovery that Facebook is changing some of their APIs to make it harder to get at private data. Not the public settings, but the data that's in their private settings, which would seem to run contrary to what you're saying. Some vendors trying to lock down what's easy for people to get.
Not contrary at all, unless I've misexpressed myself. I do think we're seeing a lockdown of the kind of page scraping data, what in the context of computer forensics would have been called unallocated clusters, deleted data,
right.
The data that required the science of forensics to bring back. I think we're seeing the virtual disappearance of much of that data as we move towards, in the context of computers, solid state storage, that won't yield up that kind of data any longer. There's no magnetic remnant data any longer. And trim and load leveling is getting rid of it. And in the context of phones, Apple and others have done such an effective job of locking down phone operating systems and phone detritus, phone relics and artifacts, that we won't see forensics on phones being considered in routine e-discovery cases. But we will see the active, accessible data being preserved in the easy, low-cost, user-friendly ways that we are gaining access to today. So no, I think Facebook tightening up their APIs, making them less accessible, less able to be scraped by other applications, is consistent with moves that Facebook has been making as we've gone forward the last 3 years. Facebook used to unlock a lot of its API, and increasingly it doesn't do that for the simple reason that it really wants to be its own ecosystem. It doesn't want to be
force you to use their internal backup
precisely
procedures.
And
okay.
So it's
Fair
getting
enough.
harder and harder to do a Facebook collection that's forensically defensible, and we're going to have to see the growth of new tools that will make that possible,
okay.
or improvements in Facebook's own takeout capabilities.
Right, right. Fair enough. Well, the last question I'm asking, and you may have heard this from various other people being interviewed today, is if you were to have one e-discovery superpower, if you were to become an X-Man of e-discovery, what would your superpower be?
I would like to be able to go into Cerebro and share everything that I know about electronic discovery with any lawyer who wanted that information, so that to the extent that I'm competent at all in this area, that they would be able to have whatever little bit of competence I could share with them, and that we would at least all be able to have, I hope, a more effective conversation about the issues we face in electronic discovery.
Now, that's very interesting, because you were the first one today to take the X-Men analogy all the way to an actual setting within the films. But two other people, I believe it was both Mary Mack and Ralph Losey, expressed a similar interest and being able to do basically brain dumps. And the transfer rate, not the rate, but the manner of transfer or the flow might have been different. But there was a real interest in how can we get all of the knowledge that resides within individuals out to other people, which seems to me to say that they're struggling with so much information, so diverse, so hard to get out to people. And of course, Ralph, with his recent efforts to open up all of his training and educational online courses for people to have at. That's a bit of a common theme expressed in several different ways.
Oh, all right. Since I'm studying, let me give you the better answer, which is I would like to have Superman's ability to fly, and I'd get the hell away from EDiscovery.
Well, and somebody else, and now I'm blanking on who it is. It might have been Julie Brown said, "Well, I just assume that the ability to fly goes with whatever superpower."
That would be so cool, wouldn't it? Absolutely. It's X-ray vision would always have been nice. Heat vision would be cool. I mean, frankly, the only superpower I currently have is that I'm invisible when no one sees me. If you're not looking at me, I'm invisible, which is a very peculiar and frustrating superpower.
Well, on that note, I think we'll sign off. Craig, as always, thanks for sharing your time.
Thanks for sharing your beads.
Great to see you, great to talk with you, and we'll see you back in New Orleans.
Let the good times roll. We're in New Orleans, folks. We're trying to make it the new center of EDiscovery for the United States and the world. So come on down and help us.
New Orleans will soon become famous for something other than parades and bourbon and bon temps roulette and food and music. Yes, we're going to add EDiscovery. We're going to add EDiscovery to the things that put New Orleans on the map.
All right.
Thanks so much.